Great. Okay, now I see Charmaine's just coming in and everything. Lovely. All right, welcome, guys. Welcome to our talk for the month. So, our talk this month is all about flexibility. So, each month I plan on doing a free little talk on one of the topics that everyone has been, that we surveyed on, and everything kind of a topic that's a variety of topics that everyone's interested in. So today we are going to be talking and doing, so it's going to be theory and practice on flexibility. So what you'll need is, because we're going to get straight into it, is if you've got a tennis ball, go grab a tennis ball. If you don't have a tennis ball, see if you've got a foam roller. And if you don't have that, then your hands are going to be absolutely fine to do the trick. What I didn't put in the notes either, the thingy, is if you've got a yoga belt or a strap or a gown belt or anything like that, you can go grab that. You obviously need your yoga mat, and if you can put on some comfy clothes. So while I just do an intro, you can kind of switch your cameras off if you need to. I think everyone has them off anyway, and go and grab those goodies. I am just going to quickly close the door here while we chat, because I can hear the husband has just arrived home. So just to make sure everything stays nice and fairly quiet. So in our talk today, what we'll do is we'll just chat a little bit about flexibility. We'll then go into, I've got about 4 postures on my board here that we'll go into and practice. And then at the end, I'll give you a little bit of tips. And for those who didn't manage to make the class last Tuesday, I'll share that link for the flexibility class we did in our Tuesday evening session as well, so that you can do that at any point in time. All right, so pretty much let's get straight into it. Hopefully you've all managed to collect your goodies. And what I thought we would start with is really make this more of like a practical test and see where and how we're going. And what we're going to be doing is we'll start off with Uttanasana, the standing forward bend. I better turn this over before I dash into the wall. And we're just going to use Uttanasana, our forward bend, to see how flexible, kind of how tight, how strained our body is feeling. So on the inhalation, we're going to draw the arms forwards and up. And as you exhale, extend forwards and down. We go straight into the posture. And you might find that there's a bit of stiffness. And if that means you need to bend your knees a little, go ahead and do that. If you need to place your hands onto your thighs, you can place your hands onto the thighs, your calves or your shins, I mean. You can grab hold of your ankles, maybe your hands are able to reach the mat. But just see where you're comfortable. Uttanasana, your forward bend, is today where you can have a nice long spine, where you can feel that the torso is moving in the direction of the legs, and allow your breath to flow in it observing. So in this position, just give yourself a rating, literally out of 10, 1 to 10, on how comfortable you feel here. Kind of basing it on stiffness. 1 being super, super stiff, and 10 being like you're flexible, like one of those mobile Barbie dolls or a piece of cooked spaghetti. Right, so if you feel into it, if I feel into it, I can tell I'm probably a 7.5, nearly an 8. I'm actually quite comfortable because I've been quite active today, running around, walking the dog, and had a nice practice this morning, so I'm feeling quite comfortable. On your inhalation, coming up and exhaling, releasing the arms and just taking a moment or two to observe and then check in. And since we are actually kind of like a lovely small group, we can kind of have a little chat about things as well. So when we were in the Uttanasana, how stiff do you feel you were? Maybe you want to just put your number in our little chat there. And what impacts do you think stiffness has on your body in particular, or in general? So if you want to unmute and just maybe share a little, you can, or if you feel that you'd rather just type something in the chat, if you don't really want to chat, then you can do that. But what, okay, Piera, you go, because I see you've unmuted, and then I'll carry on. Go ahead.
Okay, for me, I found that my back was actually fine, but my hamstrings, especially for my right leg, that was, yeah, not happy with me doing it straight-legged, so I bent my legs as much as I needed to. And I think in general, with the colder weather and with spending more time in front of my computer, it's actually quite scary how quickly you stiffen up, even if you are doing your normal practice. And I've been beginning to think I need to start doing more than my normal practice just to, you know, have the capability and flexibility that I did a few years ago, which is rather scary.
Yes, and you know, that's something interesting we'll get to in a little while as well. When we chat a little bit about the Ayurveda and how things change with time, especially when things start to dry up a little, how we really do need to start moving a bit more to keep to that flexibility. So thank you for sharing, Piera. If anyone else wants to go, you're welcome to. I see Harriet says you feeling a little less flexible than if you'd hiked today. Do you want to just share a little, Harriet?
No, I do. I notice a huge difference if it's a yoga day and I've hiked or walked in the morning. I feel a lot. I may not be, but I feel a lot more flexible and comfortable than on day. I mean, like Piera said, now when it's been cold today and I've been rushing about, but not actually doing a proper hike or exercise. And it does, yes, it does make you feel stiffer and slower and more cautious.
Exactly, it really does. So thanks for sharing, Harriet. Yeah, the weather does impact a lot as well. You know, when it's that coldness, it really does kind of let's just pop that in. Speak of you. So when it is cold, everything tends to contract and move inwards. And that's why the movement, especially that dynamic movement, is quite important to create a bit of warmth and heat. All right, Charmaine, I see you've also unmuted yourself. Do you want to have a go?
Yeah, hi. I find mainly, I mean, I was actually right in that pose. Again, it was also my hamstrings that were tighter than my back. I'm finding that, and I'm assuming it's age related, that when I wake up in the morning, my ankles are so stiff. I literally like hobble around for about half an hour before I start to loosen up. So I'm pretty sure it is just, you know, the body getting a bit older. I do walk quite a lot here. I don't do much yoga barring our week. So I'm very conscious that maybe being more flexible and actively working on the flexibility is important.
Absolutely, yeah, 100%. So it's interesting how you were chatting about kind of your knees and ankles. What you definitely find a lot is that, you know, flexibility's got a lot to do. In yoga, we work a lot with flexibilities of the joints. So kind of the ankle joints, the knee joints, the hip joints, the shoulder joints. And if we've got tightness in the legs and the hips, it can very often impact the stiffness in our knees and in our ankles. And then often what that also does is if there is kind of an imbalance or a tightness within the body, it has a massive impact on our health and our spinal integrity. And what we often find is that, you know, normally we can go through our day-to-day business, especially when the weather is warm and if we've been doing quite a lot or been active through the day. And if we do a little movement, like just going down to pick up a tennis ball off the ground, it's usually not really going to impact us too much. But when the weather gets colder, or maybe when there's been a bit too much of an imbalance in the body, when we do something, it can then kind of kick off a reaction where we then feel pain. So for example, if we constantly picking up washing off the floor, something off the floor, and we're just going kind of nilly-willy about it, kind of just angling down, and we're not really too worried about maybe the position of our feet or our legs. We kind of using more of the back, so there's more of a rounded position. there's an imbalance in the shoulders, always grabbing something with maybe the right hand and not the left. And that can often cause those tweaks in the pain and the struggle within the body. Whereas if, when we realize there's something on the ground that we want to pick up and we come to it kind of like head on, we're balanced through both feet. I'm going to do it side on again. And you realize, okay, I need to actually use the strength of my legs to get down. So we use that squatting motion to get down. I've got a nice long spine. There's no rounding, there's no strain being put on any of the vertebrae. So I've got a nice long spine, and I'm going fairly evenly with the shoulders. And now I'm using the leg strength to propel myself up. And when we start taking these little practices into our daily life, be it, you know, when we're picking up laundry, a laundry basket, if it's something that's on the mat, rolling up our yoga mat, whatever it is, we need to start being a bit more mindful of kind of how we do things. So areas of tightness that are very common are obviously the hips, the glutes and the buttocks, especially when the glutes and the buttocks are tight. Again, that impacts the back. And the back is amazing. It really just picks up the slack for when we're not actually using the muscles that are meant to be working to do a specific movement. And what happens when we do that day in, day out, the body gets quite lazy, and then kind of also that muscle atrophy starts to kick in, and the joints start to get into like a limited range of movement or kind of motion, because they're not actually being moved to their fullest. So if you think of your elbow joint, it's a hinge joint. It should just be moving kind of in that direction. So you should be able to straighten the arm completely, and you should be able to bend the fingertips to the shoulders. If we're not able to straighten the arm completely because of an issue, a challenge there, that again is going to impact the full functioning of the use of that arm. So I thought that's kind of just where I would start with our little chat. And then also just to keep in the back of your mind, and we won't go into too much because we don't have that much time, but you know, there's also flexibility of our mind, flexibility of our thoughts and our emotions, the flexibility in our schedule and things like that. So just keeping that in mind as well. So now that we know pretty much how stiffness, being inflexible, impacts us, and how we can feel that there's like a sense of kind of heaviness, there's a stagnation, we are going to kind of work into a few ways of how to become a little bit more flexible. And in yoga, there are two schools of thought, or in kind of flexibility things, are two schools of thought, and yoga actually covers both of them no matter what. So it doesn't really matter which one is right or which one is wrong. And those two schools of thought are that one is that for flexibility, you need to be working with the connective tissue. And that's what we'll do with our tennis ball. So you can use your tennis ball, you can use your foam roller, and I love to work with my feet. So if you've got a tennis ball, you literally just start with a tennis ball under your feet, and you find all those nice little tight areas. If you don't feel like standing up and you feel like lying or sitting, you can use a foam roller behind your legs. And if you don't have a tennis ball, you can literally just start massaging your feet, your legs, your arms, whatever it is. So you choose what you've got and what you'd like to work with. And working with a foam roller or a tennis ball helps to soften and make that connective tissue a little bit more pliable. So your connective tissue are your tendons, which are the connections from your bones to your muscles, the ligaments, so your connections from your bone to bone, as well as the fascia. And that actually, I think I was reading a stat, it like encompasses about like 41% of the actual flexibility available to the body, which is a massive amount. And it runs through the whole body. It's kind of that sleeve that covers each little muscle fiber and connects them to the organs and the body tissues. So taking a little bit of time to start releasing the connective tissue and finding kind of the little areas and niggles is always great. So that is kind of the one way of working it. And the second one is what they call the stretch reflex of the autonomic nervous system. So kind of that fight or flight, and where we're going to start with chilling down, chilling out, and like slowing down the nervous system. And both of those ways really do help to create a little bit more flexibility. So if you want to change feet or work to a different area, you can do that now. Let me just see what else I've got here. So what we'll do in this little workshop of ours is really just get curious with our bodies and kind of see where our little tightnesses are, where the stiffness is situated, and what we can or need to do to kind of release and relieve them. What's also quite nice to do is if you pop it in your shoulders and you've got a wall and you start to kind of release up and down there. And if you don't, you can always just use your hand, and it doesn't have to be like a hard pushing. It can be very, very gentle. Make sure that it is comfortable for you. So unfortunately, with flexibility, it's not like all of a sudden we're going to do a couple of moves and then we're going to like head out into Hanumanasana, the full-on splits. It really is taking time to work with the body deliberately as well as consistently. And that is the big thing. I remember that, you know, when I started my yoga practice, I was really big into basketball and sports like that. So my body was hard and stiff and tight. And when we had practice, the worst part was always doing stretches before and after our practice. I really, really disliked them. And then I started doing yoga with my mom and dad. We went to classes. So I had kind of the accountability. I had another person to do it with. And when we went to the yoga class, it was so lovely. And I think it's because we were working slowly, we were working mindfully, we were working with the breath. There wasn't any pushing, any forcing. We weren't comparing ourselves to anyone else. It was just me and my breath, you and your breath. And I think that's why everyone really enjoys the yoga, and the fact that it is, it takes that competitive side away. So that is pretty much my little story with yoga and stretching. I mean, when I started, I remember going into a forward bend, and I think me and my dad, we were like, yeah. And people who've been doing yoga, you know, they were doing beautiful forward bends down on the ground, and you just think, oh, you know, I wish I could. But it's that regularity of doing the stretches, of doing the movements that allow the body to create a bit more freedom, a bit more lightness. Right. So hopefully you've had fun with your tennis ball or your foam roller. And we're going to now try that forward bend once more and just see if, having worked a little bit with the connective tissue, a little bit with the fascia, if that has managed to change anything. So we'll come back up standing if you're not standing anymore. Find that neutral position. Inhale as you reach the arms forwards now. And as you exhale, extend forwards and down. And relax the neck and the head and just see how it's feeling. Has anything changed? and or shifted? Is it feeling a little bit more comfortable? Is it feeling exactly the same? Yes. And then coming out of it again, bending the knees, coming all the way up and release. Right, so let's just have a quick little check-in, since there's just a couple of you. So let's see if, having done that tennis ball work, shifted anything for you yet, or if you're still the same. So whoever wants to go can just unmute. Piera, go ahead.
Yes, I felt that there was a definite difference after working with the tennis ball. My right hamstring still was a bit twingy, but my left one was absolutely fine. And I felt that I could go a bit lower and not need to bend my knees so much. And I also just felt sort of as if there was more space in my body, which was quite nice.
Lovely. Okay, great. All right. So there was already a massive kind of little shift that you managed to pick up. And we'd only maybe been doing that for 5-10 minutes, maybe. I maybe chatted a bit long there. Harriet, what about you?
No, I'm feeling better warmed up, having stood up and put the tennis ball under my foot. So yes, I'm feeling a bit warmer and less. I feel less likely to do an injury when I'm moving now. So I'm sure I was a little bit more bendy.
Yeah. Okay.
Or I was more comfortable doing the forward bend.
More comfortable, exactly, and that's exactly what we want to hear when we get into a yoga posture. We actually really want to be comfortable, because only when we're comfortable in our yoga posture can the mind let go, and then we're able to relax. When we holding back and we're a bit nervous, and the body's kind of going, oh, is this going to hurt? Am I going to hurt something? Then we're never going to be able to relax. And if we can't relax, then that second school of thought, the autonomic nervous system, can't kick in to allow a deeper, longer stretch. So yeah, excellent. Thanks for sharing that, Harriet. And Charmaine, how about you? I know you're out in the Bahamas, so it's not like it's cold where you are at the moment.
No, it's not cold. No, my feet felt amazing afterwards. I felt, I would say, more stable in the posture. And I found I did my back a little bit as well, and I felt like I could just go just a little bit deeper into the forward bend afterwards.
Okay, great. Awesome. Well, those are some really good kind of realizations already. And what you probably noticed or realized that, if there's this tightness, there's a sense of like heaviness, and the energy is stuck, and it kind of feels quite dense. And when we're able to move it, there is that lightness and that mobility. But you can imagine that if we, day after day, week after week, month after month, don't do anything and just sit in front of our laptop doing work, or sitting on the couch, that wherever that kind of tightness is sitting can cause stagnation. And when there's stagnation, then the blood and lymph can't move easily through that joint, can't remove the waste products. And when the body can't remove the waste products, that's when kind of the diseases start to set in. And depending on your genetic makeup and what the story is, will depend on obviously maybe how that will evolve with time and show up in your body, be it a heart disease, a blood pressure problem, a cancer, or this or that. So it really, really is important to get moving and the body a little bit more mobile. So on that happy note, I thought we would get into our movement postures for today. And the first one we'll get to is, and if you need a block to sit on or a folded up towel, you can do that, is Baddha Konasana, the cobbler. We'll work with our hips first. And you've all done the posture. So finding, maybe I'll take my socks off. Finding a comfortable position for the legs, the feet, and the knees. And we're actually going to stay here for a while and hold it. What we're going to be looking at with our postures is that we want to try and create a sense of openness and lightness within the joint. And sometimes that means we need to stretch, and sometimes it means we need to strengthen. So sometimes an area is so tight that we need to start to loosen it, and sometimes that area is a little weak and we need to start to strengthen it. And sometimes by strengthening an area, we can create more flexibility for that joint. So in our Baddha Konasana, you can very, very slowly start to tilt forward if that's appropriate for you. And we're really just going to be looking at the combination of kind of flexibility and strength. We're going to be having a look at a posture that works with the hips. Then we'll take it into those lovely hamstrings, because I know all three of you were challenged by the hamstrings a little, your forward bend. Then we'll take it into our glutes, because that's also connected quite strongly to the hamstrings. And then if we've got time, we'll take it into the calves. So we'll just focus on the bottom half of the body, because I think that's where everyone's challenges are today. We didn't hear too much about shoulders. And taking maybe 2 or 3 more breaths. And you might notice that with me talking and maybe focusing on what I'm saying is that you're kind of ignoring what's happening with the legs. You're kind of switching off a little, hopefully, and that your body's kind of just willing to maybe go a little bit further without force, without strain. So with each area that we'll focus on, we'll look at a way of kind of stretching that area, and as well as a posture movement that will strengthen. So it's kind of on any given day, you can decide maybe what it is you're needing more of. Sometimes we need a bit more flexibility or stretch, sometimes we need a little bit more strength. Usually we actually need both to bring us into balance. Lovely. Right, inhaling, coming back up. If you've been tilted forward, bring the legs together and give them a lovely squeeze. So for our strengthening part, it kind of works into the glutes as well, but it does work into strengthening the hips. We're going to come into a side lying position with the knees kind of bent a little. And with this, we're going to take the attention into this top hip. So it just depends on which hip you're working with. And as you inhale, you're going to lift the top knee. You're going to keep the feet together, like you were doing a cobbler. And then as you exhale, you're going to bring that knee back down. Just going to do 5 on the side. And we're going to do it nice and slowly. So as you inhale, that knee lifts. But we're not tilting the whole pelvis or rolling it, but we're just keeping nice and stable. And then as we exhale, we come back down. And by doing that movement, you should already feel that there is a nice deep activation within kind of where the leg inserts into the pelvis. So your true hip joint. And one last one. Now just keep this knee up for a moment, hold it there, and release. Right, give that leg a little bit of shake. So if you're like me, I definitely have to work with a little bit of strengthening in the hip. You may have noticed that there was quite a big sensation in there. We're going to do the other side. So if you don't need to check out the screen, you can just roll over onto your side. I'm just going to turn this way on my mat so that I don't have my back to you while I talk. And then we'll do the same thing here, 5 rounds on this side. As you inhale, we're going to bring that top knee up. And as we exhale, we're going to lower that knee. So often tightness can be due to poor skeletal alignment. So if our spine isn't, or our whole skeleton isn't nicely aligned, if there's an imbalance there. It can be stiffness in the connective tissue, which we were playing with the ball, especially the fascia on the soles of the feet. And And it can be like we were chatting when we were chatting with Harriet about hold it up on your fifth round, nerve reflexes that kick in to prevent injury. So if there's ever been like a little bit of trauma or strain, the body will remember that. And what you want to be able to do is start to release that trauma by letting the body know that it's safe. And we'll get into how to address that in a little while with one of our next postures. And then release and letting go. Good. Give that little leg a little bit of a shake, and you can actually come and lie on your back. Just make sure that you have got your strap or something like that nearby. If you don't have a strap or a belt, don't stress. It's really not the end of the world. You can always do it without one. And take a moment as you lie on your back to really just notice how you feel, how the hips and the pelvis feel. Notice that there's a little bit of stability again. And then really my favorite way of working into stretching the hamstrings, because it really is the safest, is to, excuse me, use a strap. So place the strap around the broadest part of your foot, just below your toes. And you're going to send it up, or if you're holding on either side of the strap, you can, and you just have that upper arms on the ground. Now you're not going to take your leg to its fullest. You're going to take it to where you can feel a comfortable stretch. You're even going to close your eyes here now, and you're going to breathe. So what I would like you to focus on while you're working in that posture, I'm going to sit up because I can't really talk while I'm lying, is working with lengthening your exhalation. So when we did the sleep workshop, we worked with the 1-2 breath, and that's what you're going to be doing as you lie here. You're going to notice how long you're inhaling to, and you're going to try and make your exhalation twice the length of your inhalation. So you're not going to force it or strain the breath, but you are just going to try and allow your exhalation to become longer and longer and longer until eventually it's twice the length of your inhalation. So it's doing that 1-2 breathing. So if you're inhaling to a count of 3, you're going to see if you can exhale to a count of 6. Inhaling to a count of 4, you're going to see if you can try to exhale nice and slowly to a count of 8. So that you're really slowly starting to kind of ease and soften into it. And what you'll probably find is that as you lengthen that exhalation, your body automatically is happy or comfortable to go a little bit deeper, a little bit further into the stretch. So you might feel that you can slowly start bringing that strap closer towards you without your body going into strain or shock or anything like that. Right, so let's just hold it for another breath or 2 here. We do have 2 legs, so we'll definitely be doing the other side, otherwise we're not going to be too balanced. And after your 2 breaths, bend that knee to the chest, give it a lovely squeeze, and then slip it around the other side, the other leg, and make sure you're grounding comfortably through that right leg or the one that you just worked to allow the opposite leg to come up. Upper arm can rest on the mat. You can close your eyes and now really just focus on lengthening that exhalation. Allow your whole sacral area, the pelvis to release down into the mat evenly on both sides. Inhaling. And your exhalation is long and slow. And it feels as if you're really able to melt into the posture. Absolutely no force, absolutely no strain. It should be really enjoyable. Then you'll notice, like after a couple of breaths, it's like that leg isn't, there's no stretch in that leg anymore. And you might just want to draw that strap a little bit close towards you. And then you continue to breathe into it and let it go. And it really is the slow, long breaths, that deep exhalation, or that long exhalation at least, which helps to work with stretching and lengthening into the muscles. And that's what helps to kind of allow the body to feel safe. So you're not taking it to its fullest, and you're allowing it to come out of that fight and flight mode. As soon as we breathe more slowly and more deeply, our body goes into that lovely rest and digest. And when you're in that rest and digest phase, then everything becomes soft and releases. And we never then want to kind of take it to its fullest again. You just slowly want to work with it to where you feel a little bit, and then you kind of relax into it again. The body knows that it's safe. There's nothing kind of straining it, nothing that's going to injure it. And when we do this day after day, week after week, that's what is going to build flexibility. All right, when you're ready, gently release. Give that knee a good squeeze. And maybe just stretch both legs out. And notice how the back of the legs feel. Hopefully they feel a little more alive, maybe a little longer, a little freer. And then we're going to roll onto our abdomen. So with a posture that helps to strengthen the hamstrings, we're going to do a simple locust, Salavasana. What happens is that when we lengthen and stretch one set of muscles, the other contracts. So what we're going to try and do is we're going to try and lengthen through our quadriceps, through the front of our leg, so that the back of the leg, the hamstring, as well as the glutes, will be engaging and contracting a little. So we'll do, again, 5 with the right leg and 5 with the left leg. For your locust, you're going to send the legs straight back. Your forehead is going to rest on your hands. I'm going to just keep my head up so that you can hear me. And I'll start with my left leg because that's the closest to the screen. So you're really going to lengthen out through your right leg. You're going to ground and stabilize both your hips. And as you inhale, whichever leg you choose, you're going to inhale, you're going to lift that right leg up, but you're going to keep lengthening through the kind of the front of that leg, the leg that's closest, the part of your leg that's in the direction to the mat. And you should notice that the hamstrings, that there's an engagement, there's a kind of a firmness in the hamstrings, as well as an engagement in the glutes. And as you exhale, you're going to release that leg down. We'll do 4 more. Inhaling as you lift, and it doesn't have to be a high lift, not at all. You just want to feel that engagement. And then exhale, releasing back down. Really lengthen through that leg. Feel that the thigh muscle, your quadriceps, is lengthening as you extend that leg away from you. I'm doing 2 more. There we go. Lovely. And then we're going to do the opposite leg, left leg. Maybe just realign hips and pelvis, stay neutral. And then as you inhale, lengthen through that left leg this time, lifting it. And as you exhale, lower. So we're not going into a full locust where we're trying to bring that leg up as high as possible. What we're really trying to focus on is lengthening through the leg, extending back, lifting, noticing the engagement, pausing, and then lowering. So it very much is more of a control, aware movement than trying to get kind of deep into a deep back bend or anything like that. Lovely. One more round. Once you've done your 5, or at least an even amount on both sides, you're going to release. If you give the feet and the legs a little bit of a shake, a little wiggle, you can do that. And then you can roll onto your back again and you can hug your knees to your chest. So that was a movement of working into we worked into the hips, and that was working into the hamstrings now. The next area we're going to be focusing on are our glutes, so working into the buttocks. And for working into the buttocks, we are going to do the hand through the hole. And we're going to really do it nice and comfortably. So we'll start off by placing the right foot on top of the left leg, send the right arm through the hole, grab hold of your left leg. I love to have a pillow underneath my head. You can place it there. If you can't reach that leg comfortably, use your strap and just hold on to your strap, because again, we want to be in a comfortable position. We're not looking to get into like a perfect yoga position or anything like that. We actually just want to make sure that we are completely comfortable. Right, I'm going to sit up so that I can talk a little more freely while you hold your posture, and I'm going to just keep an eye on the time to make sure that we get to do it for kind of 3 to 5 minutes is really a nice time to be holding a posture statically to allow the body to release and to relax into it. When we give the body the space of that time to release, it starts to open up nicely. And what I want to take your attention to now is the movement of the chest and the lungs. So during the exhalation, let me put my hand here, your diaphragm moves up. So as you inhale, the diaphragm moves down, the air fills the lungs and kind of there's pressure in the abdomen. But as you exhale, the diaphragm moves up. And when your diaphragm moves up, it gently presses against the heart. So there's a gentle massaging of the heart. And that pressure just helps to slow down the heart rate. And when that happens, the blood pressure reduces or lowers. That releases or reduces the amount of stress on the rib cage, on the intercostal muscles, as well as the abdominal muscles. And then that means that you kind of have a deeper tolerance for stretching. That going a little deeper, that ability is enhanced. So we are going to, or as you kind of breathe, you'll notice that as you inhale, there's kind of like a sensation of the abdomen expanding. It gets kind of, there's a filling sensation. But as you exhale, and when everything moves inwards again, there's a release, and you really notice how probably that left buttock is able to soften and ease a little bit further and a little bit more. And that's what's happening when we're breathing slowly and deeply, because our heart is being massaged. Blood pressure is being lowered. The pressure on the rib cage, intercostal muscles, abdominal cavity is being reduced. All right, let's head over to the other side. So where were we? Sorry, I was meant to say right buttocks, and I think I said left. We're going to change sides. So releasing nice and safely out of your posture. Take a moment to realign. Sometimes it's nice just to shake the legs. And then we do the same thing on the other side. So your left leg goes, your left foot comes over the right side, so the hands behind the back of that leg, and breathe into your left buttocks now. I hope that is the other one. I can't remember which one we started off with. But as long as you're doing the opposite buttocks now, we're going to stay there again for we'll do about 3 minutes. But when you're at home, you can literally stay there for up to 5 minutes. You want to really be able to feel that your head is able to relax back. But there's no strain on the shoulders, that your whole physical body can relax. And you're just holding kind of the posture, the position, and you're breathing into it. Nice deep breaths, noticing the movement in the abdomen, and allowing that exhalation to kind of take you a little deeper, a little bit further. me just see if there's anything else I need to cover. I think I'm covering most of it. Yeah. I don't think I've got anything else exciting to share with that posture. No. So maybe just staying there for another breath. So we'll just kind of recap while we are here. With flexibility, we need to work with stretching and strengthening. So we need to have those two polarities working simultaneously and in balance to create flexibility within the body. We need to work with lengthening the exhalation, trying to get that exhalation to be twice the length of the inhalation, especially when we're holding the stretches. And we want to hold stretch for about 3 to 5 minutes to get the most benefit from it. Lovely. Right, so again, you can release out of that posture now. You might just want to hug your knees to your chest. You might feel more comfortable by giving them a good shake up to the ceiling. Hopefully that buttocks feels a little warmer, a little looser as well. And then when you're ready, you can swing yourself up if that's available to you, or just roll onto your right side and come up slowly. And for our glute strengthening posture, it's going to be similar to the locust that we did, but we're going to be on our knees. I just realized, sorry, I have to share this with you because everything is feeling wet. And I couldn't work it out, like why my socks were wet and why my buttocks is wet and my knees. And I realized that I'd sent this mat in to be washed and it didn't dry properly. So there's still all this dampness in this mat. All right. So with that realization, knees underneath the hips, hands underneath your shoulders, we're going to be taking the weight down into the right leg, and we can start with the left because that one's closer to the screen here. And we're going to bring it up into I was going to say a cat, exhaling breath cat. So we're just going to bring the leg parallel to the ground. And you can flex your foot a little here. It doesn't have to be a strong flex, just a bit of an engagement. And then as you inhale, you're going to lift the foot a little. So you can notice your buttocks engaging. And then as you exhale, you're going to lower that leg a little. Again, not a big movement. You just want to feel that leg buttocks engage. And then release. You're making sure that you're not lifting so much that you're collapsing in your lower back. You're not causing any strain there. So the abdominals are still engaged and holding you. And it's just a small little movement working with that left buttocks. And you'll probably find that your right buttocks has to kind of control your position here as well. So you might be noticing it a little there too. Especially if those glutes are a little weak, which I hate to admit is the story here. When you've done about 5, you can release back. Maybe just give them a little bit of a rub. And then we'll do the other side. Right leg this time, bringing that leg up to about a 90-degree angle plank so that it's comfortable. Engaging the abdominals, pressing down through the hand. And then as you inhale and you lift the foot, notice how that buttocks engages, and as you exhale, this is the release. And keep working to the rhythm of your breath. You give the adaptation changes that you need. If you find that being on your knees isn't comfortable, remember you can do this lying on your abdomen like the locust, and you just do it instead of having your legs straight, you do it with your knee bent. If, for example, you couldn't be lying on your abdomen, you could be doing a hamstring one, you could be doing with the legs straight. There's always so many variations and options and ways to adapt during yoga posture movements. When you're ready, release, maybe give the buttocks a little bit of a rub. Super. So let's do one last area, focus on one last area of the body before we call it a night. And that is working with the calves. And I was going to work into the down dog, but I think that is actually a little mean. It's not that it's a little mean, just that it's quite a strong posture and it works a whole lot of areas. So I thought we'll work with just the calves by taking it into a very simple calf stretch. So especially for Harriet, who enjoys, and Clara and Charmaine, you also actually enjoy walking. A very nice little practice to do kind of before even hiking or when you get back. The front knee is slightly bent. I'm going to be pushing into the back leg and feeling that calf muscle stretching, engaging, working. And you might just want to lift your back toes a little if you're not feeling that stretch in the calf. And holding here. Sometimes it's nice to do this against a wall. Right, so the last kind of thing that I just wanted to share with you while we hold it here, working into the back, is the idea of hydration. I think we touched on it right at the beginning. And there was like an interesting stat that I also came up with, is that apparently as adults, our tissue loses up to 15% of its moisture. And that's just with regards to aging. So, and especially when we move into the Vata time of our life, which is kind of, you know, as we work through many menopause and going up. So as we're born, we're in the Kapha stage of life where we're building and growing, kind of in our adolescence and up to our 40s or so. We're in the Pitta phase of our lives, the fire, where we're creating life, creating business, creating career, creating projects. And then we kind of get into the Vata phase, which is what we often call the drying out phase, because everything tends to dry out a little as we get older. And hence, that is why we want to stay hydrated. Let's change legs, working the other side. And that's why, you know, our lifestyle may have to change a little. We may have to, you know, get back from X amount of cups of coffee to one or one every other day. The same with alcohol. Anything that causes a sense of drying to the body, we're going to have to start reducing, and we're going to have to start hydrating the body more with obviously water, nourishing food, so more foods that are kind of have a higher water content, your soups, your stews, less of kind of the drying food, so less of the baked and the fried and the crunchy, the chips and the biscuits, all of that kind of stuff. Really feel how you're able to work into that calf and see if you can keep those exhalations still nice and long. So when our muscle fibers start to kind of like adhere to each other and they kind of start to clump together, and that kind of collagen builds, and that connective tissue just becomes quite hard, and it's very difficult then to create that fluidity with it, and you need the water element. And we're doing such a lovely podcast series this month with Nicole on Nourish and Restore, where we talk about the water element and creativity and all of this. So I can always share that with you guys as well. But kind of what I was saying in that podcast is as well, is like the water is such a strong element that when you start harnessing it, it even kind of works its way against a harder substance like stone. And we saw, where were we? At Vilanculas, at one of the islands, the beach islands, you know, massive structure being built, but just because of the waves constantly bashing away at it, unfortunately, this whole structure had kind of collapsed and crumbled. And it just shows the strength of the water, because it's so resilient, it just goes, it's so mobile, and it's unyielding, and it'll just work away at whatever stiffness or tightness is there. So literally, that hydration is super important. All right, now that that calf has gotten a good stretch, give that leg a shake out as well. It makes it, I hope it makes it easier to hold a stretch when I'm talking a whole load of nonsense. Or not quite nonsense, trying to be somewhat informative. So calves have been nicely stretched. We're now going to work with strengthening them, and a greatest way to do this is obviously if you've got a step or a block at home, but even to do it just flat-footed is, I mean, flat on the ground is fine. If you're unbalanced, you hold onto a wall. Your inhalation, you're going to lift your heels, going up onto the balls of your feet, and as you exhale, slowly down. So kind of what I also wanted to say is that stretching, when we do stretches, when we work and we are mobile, it really helps to delay that, I don't want to say decaying process, but kind of the dehydration of the joints. As soon as we keep mobile, we keep moving, we keep stretching, it really does help to allow the tissue fibers to kind of lubricate themselves as well. And noticing how your calves are feeling with this movement. Is there one that's a little more dominant than the other, or are they both kind of working equally? Can you feel that this is comfortable? Can you really feel that, whoopsie, that the calves are needing to do a little bit of work? Let's maybe do one more. And release. Super. All right, give those legs a nice little shake. And release. Right. So to end off and to see if any of that had any impact in our forward bend, let's go into our forward bend once more, and then to see how our body is feeling now. When you're ready, on an inhalation, drawing the arms forwards and up. And as you exhale, extend forwards and down. So for me, definitely, I can feel that. I mean, I'm already able to touch the ground. My abdomen is closer to my thighs. There's no strain in my back. My legs can still feel it. I think they'll always feel it, but it's definitely a lot easier. I'm not sure where you guys are. It might be the same for you. It might be different. Just noticing and acknowledging. And then when you're ready, coming back up. Right, so I know that it is nearly on 7 o'clock, so if anyone does need to go, you'll be more than welcome to. I won't feel offended, but if you've got 5 more minutes or so, I thought I'd just share a few more tips with you and then have a quick check-in. So the kind of simple tips that I thought I wanted to just remind you of or share with you is one, massage. So at night, when you're lying on the couch just before you go to bed, just to massage your feet and to release any of the tightness, even just before going into bed. It really is a lovely practice. One, it'll settle the vata, the air and ether element, and it should give you a good night's sleep, but also it should help just to make sure that, like we were doing with the tennis ball, that there's a sense of softness before you get into bed, which is lovely for the body. The second one is, if you do have your tennis ball, to use that regularly, and it might just mean having it nearby, under kind of where your desk is, and either kind of doing it while you're working or taking a couple of minutes here and there to just play with the tennis ball. Hopefully you don't have your dog stealing it and then you've got to kind of run around the garden trying to find one. And the third one is a well-rounded workout. So we can't just do stretching, we've got to do some strength work as well. And I'm going to throw in that we need to do a little bit of cardio as well, just to make sure that it is, you know, that we have a well-rounded practice. You may want to have kind of more stretch one day, more strength another day, more cardio another day. It really doesn't matter. But just that throughout the week, there is a balance. And the fourth one is diet. So eating, we all know what we shouldn't be eating, but just maybe eating those food items that are more hydrating and more nourishing to us, keeping that in mind. And then obviously the fifth one that we spoke about is to hydrate, to keep the body nicely hydrated and lubricated. So those are kind of like my 5 tips for you. They're very, very simple. It's not that difficult. And yeah, so that is that from my side. What I wanted to just let you guys know about is that I'm super excited because I've just decided, or not just decided, but I've been working on releasing my year-long health coaching program. So that's going to be coming out in March next year. And to do that, I'm going to be doing like a couple of chats with people so that I can find out kind of who's got what kind of health challenges, and if the work that I'm putting together is going to be able to address some of those challenges. So if you want to have a little chat with me at some stage to see what challenges you have, and if the yoga and the Ayurveda that I'm putting together in March will be helpful, then yeah, let's get that scheduled in. You can always just email me. And yeah, I'll send up a follow-up. So that's pretty much all I have for now. I see you guys are still there. I would love to hear about how that forward bend felt after all the work we did, if there was any change. So whoever wants to go, I'm going to let you go. Piera, you're up.
Yes. Yeah, I felt a definite difference between the last one compared especially to the first one. Yeah, I also noticed that as we were going through the different movements that my body's got very asymmetrical niggles. So my right hamstring, my left calf, and my left lower back. Obviously, that means some kind of an imbalance there. So I think, yeah, the importance that you mentioned of the flexibilities, but combined with the strengthening as well. So I'm going to try and incorporate a bit more of that and see if I can kind of, yeah, get back into balance a bit more and even myself out.
Awesome, well done. What a nice realization. Good job. All right, who's next on my list? I think Harriet, you went next last. I mean, Harriet, go.
Well, I've realized I've got one of these, I got it from my osteopath. I've got a yellow one and a red one, these kind of fancy tennis balls.
Yes.
And, you know, I always used to have it at my desk at work. When I worked in an office, it was there and I used to roll my feet on it. And I've been working from home for 18 months and they've been sitting in a drawer. So I'm getting them out again. Thank you very much.
Yay, excellent. I'm so glad to hear that. It's funny how
it's a lovely sensation.
They really are. I love those little knobbles. Oh, those are the best. Cool. Charmaine.
Yeah, interesting enough, I was also given a set of those knobbly balls, and I've never really known what to do with them. So I will also pull them out of my drawer.
Oh, well done. Cool.
Yeah. So for me, the forward bend definitely felt much better the last time as to the first time. But interesting enough, the last time I could really notice my back. So I feel like maybe my legs released, but I think I might spend another half an hour stretching out my back and shoulders now.
Okay. when you were doing your forward bend, was your, because I didn't have the camera on, was your back nice and straight and were your knees slightly bent, or were you trying to straighten your legs in your forward bend?
I think initially I realized I was trying to straighten it, and then I bent my legs afterwards, and rather tucked into my chest. Yeah.
All right. Okay. So it'll be nice to just kind of experiment a little bit more now. See if you can maybe use your nice little ball on maybe some of the little tight areas in the back and see if that can release something.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Cool. Awesome, guys. So any other questions or comments before we call it a night?
No, that was lovely. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome, Harriet. So good to see you.
Yeah, I've got a question.
Yes.
I just was wondering how, I mean, obviously daily, I guess, would be the answer, but I mean, how often should you really dedicate to doing some flexibility exercises a week?
What do you think, Charmaine?
I think the answer is daily.
Yeah, you know what it is? It's not like it needs to be a regimen thing. It can be just a little practice. So how about if we create like a little 7-day challenge where every day we do, say, 4 to 6 minutes of either something that is stretching or strengthening, and then see at the end of the week how, or if anything's changed.
Well, that sounds interesting.
So we're not going to make it like a whole long class type of thing, just a little bit of a challenge where every day we do something. Maybe what I'll do is I'll create, let's see, okay, I'll create a little challenge on that Facebook page, and every morning I will commit to being on there and recording a little something. So whoever's up at, say, 6:30 and wants to join me can join me. Otherwise, Charmaine, you can just check out the recording a little later.
Yes, that sounds great.
Okay, and then we'll see if that addresses your question at the end of the week.
I think that the issue for me is it's mentally just to put aside, say, an hour a day to stretch or strengthen it just feels like a big commitment.
Yeah, no, that's why I'm saying let's do 4 to 6 minutes, because that is not a big commitment, and that sounds a lot more fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
To put an hour aside. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I think for me also what I found is, even if you do say an hour or 30 or 40 minutes in the morning, if you then go and sit behind your computer and you're not actually moving and doing some of these exercises, then you're going to be stiff by the end of the day again, regardless of what you did right at the start of the day. So I think for me, I'm going to try and take little breaks where I do, one set of each of these throughout the day, and see if that makes me feel a bit more flexible, at least at the end of the day.
Exactly, that'll be a really nice thing to play with and test as well, because it's especially a lot of us, we are just sitting at desks at the moment, and you need to kind of get up and move throughout the day to get that kind of flexibility and mobility to the body. So yes, Piera, yay. Cool. Any other questions, comments? All good.
Thanks very much, Nina. This was lovely. That's what we needed.
Cool. Perfect, guys. Thanks so much for being here. Hopefully that was helpful. And I look forward to catching up with you soon. I'm just trying to see. Harriet, are you part of that group?
The Tuesday group, yes.
The Tuesday group. Okay, so you've got the link to that. Perfect. Then I don't need to share that. Cool. Then that's it from me from tonight, guys. Hope you have a lovely evening. I hope the legs and the hips all feel a little bit happier, and we'll catch up again sometime soon.
Thanks ever so much.
Thanks, Nina. Good night.
Take care.
Thank you very much, Nina.
You're welcome.